What One Piece really teaches us about human nature. I used to think Monkey D. Luffy was just another overpowered protagonist chasing freedom on the high seas. Then I watched him do something that completely shattered my understanding of what One Piece was really about. It wasn't when he punched a celestial dragon. It wasn't when he declared war on the world government. It was something much quieter, much more human, and infinitely more profound. Your brother just died in your arms. Any rational person would break. Any normal hero would have a dramatic breakdown, train harder, and come back stronger. Picture this: you're facing the most powerful enemy you've ever encountered. Your crew is scattered across the world. Luffy wants to be Pirate King. He wants to sail freely. He fights against oppressive systems. Simple, right? But Luffy did something else entirely. And in that moment of absolute vulnerability, One Piece revealed its true genius. This wasn't a story about freedom at all. He sat in a forest for 2 weeks, completely paralyzed by grief, unable to move forward. Most people think One Piece is about liberation because that's the surface level everyone sees. Wrong. What if I told you that Luffy's greatest moments have nothing to do with breaking chains, and everything to do with forging them? It was about Vivi learning that being a princess means accepting the weight of caring for millions of people. Scipio wasn't about ending an ancient war. It was about two peoples learning to share the same sky. Water 7 wasn't about saving Robin from her past. It was about Robin accepting that she deserves to have a future tied to others. What are your happiest memories? I bet they're not moments when you were completely free from all responsibilities and connections. They're probably moments when you felt deeply connected to other people, when you mattered to someone, when someone mattered to you. Luffy arrives somewhere, sees people suffering, and, wait for it, creates new bonds instead of breaking old ones. He doesn't say come sail with me because you'll be free. He says you're my cook, navigator, doctor, musician now. He's literally assigning them roles, responsibilities, identities that tie them to something bigger than themselves. He doesn't free Nami from Arlong by telling her to abandon her village. He makes her village his responsibility. He doesn't save Robin by encouraging her to live for herself. Luffy gives them something collective, something that connects them to others. He shows her that living for others is what makes life worth living. Stay with me here, because this gets deeper than you think. Luffy shows him that connection matters more than power. Doflamingo believes the world is a cruel game where only the strong survive. Luffy proves that the weak can become strong when they have something worth fighting for. Every major villain represents a different philosophy about human nature, and Luffy defeats them not through superior power, but through superior understanding of what people actually need. When Luffy meets Kobe, he doesn't inspire him to be free. He inspires him to chase a dream that will literally chain him to the Marines for life. Think about that. The Straw Hats talk about dreams, but they're bound to each other, and they're the happiest crew on the seas. Based on everything we know about Roger's character and Oda's philosophy, it's likely something that can only be appreciated by someone who understands the value of human connection. The supposed avatar of freedom convinces someone to join the military. The first hint comes early, but most fans miss it completely. If it was ultimate power or unlimited wealth, wouldn't he have used it to help them? Every character who remains miserable is trapped by their pursuit of individual freedom or power, a truth about human nature that would undermine their entire system of control. People who would fight impossible battles by your side, people who would share their dreams with you and help make yours come true. Instead, he sent them away and turned himself in. Roger was dying when he found it. He was alone when he discovered it, and his reaction was to laugh. What could make a dying man laugh when he's achieved his life's dream? That's freedom to love others completely. It's his ability to see what people actually need, not what they think they want. Not freedom from responsibility, but the freedom to choose our responsibilities. But here's where it gets interesting. One Piece quietly suggests something revolutionary, that our greatest strength comes from our willingness to be vulnerable with the right people. Luffy gave him people to feed. Robin thought she wanted to die. Luffy gave her reasons to live. We're meant to be free to choose each other. Every single arc in One Piece follows the same hidden pattern. The pattern is everywhere once you see it. Alabasta wasn't about freeing a kingdom from a tyrant. But why does this matter? Why should you care about some pirate manga's philosophy? Because Oda accidentally created the most accurate portrayal of human psychology ever put in fiction. Think about your own life for a second. This is what psychologists call belongingness, and it's one of our most fundamental needs. We're not built to be free, we're built to belong. And Luffy understands this instinctively. Watch how he recruits his crew. He doesn't offer them freedom, he offers them family. The Revolutionary Army talks about freedom, but they're miserable. Coincidence? Not a chance. Here's where One Piece gets really psychological. Luffy's superpower isn't his rubber body or his haki. Zoro thought he wanted to be the strongest swordsman. Luffy gave him a crew to protect. Sanji thought he wanted to find the All Blue. Notice the pattern. Everyone thinks they want something individual, something for themselves. But wait, there's more. The most brilliant part of One Piece's psychology comes in how it handles conflict. Crocodile believes people are tools to be used. Luffy shows them their family to be protected. Enel believes he's God above all others. Each victory isn't just physical, it's philosophical, and this brings us to the most mind-blowing realization about One Piece's true message. The treasure itself, the One Piece, probably isn't gold or weapons or even information. Think about it. Maybe the realization that the real treasure was always the people who helped him get there. I know, that sounds cheesy. But consider this: Roger disbanded his crew right after finding the One Piece. The only explanation that makes sense is that the One Piece taught him something about human nature that changed his perspective on everything. And what is that lesson? That we're not meant to be free from each other. Every character in One Piece who finds genuine happiness does so by choosing to be bound to something bigger than themselves. The world government fears the One Piece not because it's a weapon, but because it's a truth. What if the One Piece is simply the realization that the greatest treasure in life is having people who would sail to the ends of the earth with you? That's not freedom from others. And maybe that's what One Piece has been teaching us all along. That the highest form of human existence isn't independence, it's interdependence. That the real adventure isn't sailing to distant islands, but building bonds strong enough to survive any storm. In a world that constantly tells us to prioritize ourselves, to be independent, to not rely on others, that's the real treasure. That's what makes us human. And that's why, after 25 years, millions of people around the world still believe in the dream of the Pirate King.